Hello and welcome back to another LeetCode problem. We're looking at LeetCode 3582, generate tag for video caption. It's an easy problem, which will allow us to focus on the interview process. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that all of this is really to practice a systematic approach for interviews when you encounter a coding problem. And yeah, we're not going to do anything new in this video, but follow the process. So step one. Let's look at the problem description and let's be vocal about our thought process and all of these good things. Right, so we're given a string caption representing the caption for a video. Following actions must be performed in order to generate a valid tag for the video. Combine all words in the string into a single camel case string prefixed with a hashtag. A camel case string is one where the first letter of all words except the first one are capitalized. All characters after the first character in each word must be lowercase. Okay. Remove all characters that are not an English letter except for the first hashtag. Truncate the result to a maximum of 100 characters. Return the tag after performing the actions on caption. So this seems like a rather easy problem. In an interview, I'd ask about, what does the input exactly look like? Can it be an empty string? Can it be a nil reference? Could it be a string that contains no valid characters? What if we have a hashtag in the caption, etc., etc. And the output string, could it be empty when, the input string doesn't match any requirements and all those things? And the answer would be, well, we're given a string that has at least one character in it. And it consists only of lowercase English letters and spaces, which is really nice. Right, so then the next step is to go through some of the examples. Here we see an example caption input. And if we turn this into a camel case with the preceding hashtag, you can already see we remove all the spaces and then change the casing of all the beginning of the words, or whether it's lowercase or uppercase, and then we combine them all into one string, and that is what we do. And the first string is lowercase. Interesting. So yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory how that works. Now there's another string here, and here we can see actually we have two words. One is only one character, and they both remain with uppercase. That's fine too. Now the next example that's an interesting one. So, I see there's a difference in length here by one. Do you see that? And we added a hashtag. So that is, I guess, where the truncation comes into play. All right, that's a truncation example. Cool. So, well, how can we approach this problem? Well, I think we would just need a linear pass over the string. So that would be O of n time. And we need to build up the result, which will also take O of n space. And I would use an array to build up the result so that I don't have to create new strings every time I try to add a character, which would result in O of n squared time. Right, so yeah, that would be my approach. Just iterate over all of the characters and keep track of whether we're building the first word or what word we're at, and then changing the first character to uppercase or lowercase depending on whether it's the first word or the second word that we encounter. Right, so let's implement that and just to remind ourselves, let's write down the space and time complexity, and we're going to start with a result, and the result will contain a hashtag in the beginning, right? And at the very end, we're going to combine all the characters that we put into our result array, like so. And now we just need to be careful, what do we put into our result? So first, we're going to iterate over all of the characters in the caption string. Next, we're going to check whether it's the first word or not, and maybe use a flag for this. And flag tells us whether the next character should be lowercase or uppercase, right? Make uppercase. Well, that's going to be false. If make uppercase, then we're going to do that. And if we made a character uppercase, we know we're going to change our flag. But if we don't need to make something uppercase, we should make sure, and we need to make sure that the character is actually lowercase, because something they don't have here is they don't have a string where they have uppercase characters in between, which could occur. So we need to guard against that, right? So if we don't need to make it uppercase, we need to make sure that it's still lowercase. So that takes care of making things uppercase or lowercase. Now we need to check, okay, what kind of character is this? Is this a valid character? Is this maybe a space, which would tell us that we have to toggle our little flag here. So if the next character is is a letter, that is a letter that we need to add to our result, right? And we do have to do it, I think, put it to lower first before we can call is alpha. Otherwise, is alpha will return false on uppercase letters if I'm not mistaken. Now, if we don't encounter a regular character, that is a signal for us that it's a divider between the words, because it told us explicitly that caption consists of English letters and a space, right? So the else case is now where the character is a space. Now we have to check if our result length is larger than 1. That means we're going to switch our make uppercase flag to true. However, if we haven't put anything besides the hashtag into our result, we don't want to make the next character to true. Now, this logic guards against the fact where maybe we have a string that, let's say we have the string test, and in our loop, we would first run into a space, and we don't want to trigger uppercase letter just because there's a leading space. We still want to get in the end test, right? So that is why we have to check whether we can actually make the next character uppercase, and the length of the result array will tell us that. And then finally, what we need to do is we need to check if the length of the result is larger than 100 or equal. In that case, we're done, and we're going to break. So let's see, truncate the result to a maximum. So the result means including the hashtag, right? Right, and then that should be it. Well, yeah, let's just step through this real quick, through the logic. So we check each character. We check whether we should turn it into uppercase character or not. Now, if we do, then we turn it in uppercase 1, and we switch our flag back. The only case where we switch our flag to true is when we encounter a space and when we already have a resulting characters in our result array. So I think that should work. Let me just run it through the tests. And in an interview, I would take some more time to go through it, take an example and really step through it, or write a test that does it for me. But that is kind of, I guess, boring to do in a video, so I'm skipping over this. But you can see it passes all of the tests. The next would be to submit it to see if it passes all of the tests. And of course, before you do that, you have to ask the interviewer. So there you go. And I think we have the optimal space and time solution, because we need to build a new string, right? And in Python, creating a string isn't done for free. We cannot edit a string in place in Python. So we need that space, but we also need to iterate over all of the characters of the string in order to transform them. So of time space, I think, is the optimal solution in Python. And it passes all of the tests. So that concludes that video.